P&R with Adam R. Welcome to 3P&R. I'm your host, Adam R. And with me this evening, CALPARA. I have Dyann, Karen, and Katie. How are you ladies doing?
Wonderful.
Good.
Magnificent.
Tonight's subject is focused on the paranormal. I've been speaking a lot about it. Prior to the podcast, I didn't have very much knowledge on it. I got involved with it, started talking to the experts, and my train of thought on the paranormal, it's evolved. It's changed. It went from me being kind of, when the lights turn out, that's it, to I'm now making room for new. So let's talk about so you ladies got together. You have your investigations. What drew? We'll start with Katie. What drew you to the paranormal?
My story is that when I was 13, 14, 15, I was babysitting in a haunted house, and found out a couple years later that yes, in fact, it was very haunted, and then just started exploring. I'm also a medium, so spirits kind of chatter at me sometimes. So I'm kind of seeking like the what is going on aspect.
Got it. The thing to a medium, and I say for mediums, I feel bad for them because, spirits are, especially the ones left behind, they have no one to talk to. Like me, for instance, for an example, I pass, I'm here, and I find someone could hear me, I'm going to bother them because I'm going to want to be heard. Karen, you too? What's your experience? What got you on this road?
I've always felt like we weren't alone. I've always been interested, in the atmosphere, other worlds, other dimensions, the stars. I've always just felt like we were never alone. And my friend Dyann started investigating, and I met Katie in Las Vegas at a paranormal convention. Dyann said, come with me. And we'd done some other investigations here in the Inland Empire. And I just knew there was more. I knew there was more to it. I wanted to help if I could. I wanted to just further my knowledge a little bit and see if I could find out a little piece of what really is going on, what else is out there, and what can I do to help. So like I said, I did a couple investigations here in the Inland Empire, and then just thought, okay, well, once you catch a little something, it just keeps you going, and it drives you just a little further. So just the interest in knowing that we're not alone and what else is there.
Right. And Dyann, you?
My interest kind of goes back to when I was a kid. I grew up in the 60s, and, having, the shows on TV like Night Gallery, those shows like that where, being a kid and told, okay, it's time to go to bed now. And knowing that my parents are watching these shows that have these fascinating stories behind them. And, that just kind of stuck with me as I became an adult, and, it was kind of back there. And then at some point, it's like, other people are investigating this stuff. I want to know what's going on too. I am not a psychic medium like Katie is. I always say that I'm about as psychic as a rock, although Katie has told me otherwise, to pay attention to those things. But I tend to be more skeptical and more science driven. But, I think that there's something out there we need to bridge that unknown and get some answers, because I think that I think there are answers out there.
There definitely are. And the amount of people, so recently I was speaking to Stephen Murray, a paranormal specialist from England. And him and I, we had a nice hour, almost 2-hour conversation. When I look at paranormal, and from my perspective anyhow, there's definitely something else. Again, I started skeptical because I was one of those very, default to logic, and the lights turn off, that's it. Yeah. And the more I learn, the more I have to make room for it. And one of the big things I've learned lately, and I invite you guys to look at this, look at images of the cosmic web then look at images of the human brain and imaging, and there's definitely a greater connection. There's definitely a source. There's definitely a construct. The question that is the mystery is, what exactly is it, right? And that's what gives it the appeal. So for you girls, in your exploration, what have you come across that, boom, that's it. No doubt something's there.
Who wants to go first?
There's that one time. Oh my gosh. It's always, they always say, like, what's your scariest or your favorite or your best? And there's just so many. For me, I've had spirits jump me 3 times and sort of try to take over. Either that or I went crazy for a moment. But there was this moment when I'm in my head and yet someone else is in my head. Feels like they're trying to use my thoughts, my eyes, and my mouth. And I'm thinking, this isn't me. And I feel possessed if there's such a feeling, It was kind of definitive for me that something that I had been talking about just a few minutes earlier in the room with us is now in the room in me. And it kind of validated what I suspected a moment ago. Had to shake them out and get them out and learn how to not have that happen anymore, because it's very uncomfortable and scary. But for me, that kind of sealed it right there. It was like just not having control over my thought processes, but being able to view them from behind myself, if you can understand that.
Yeah. To my point earlier, if you look at the human brain and the neurons that go in there, and it's really like a computer, right? And the human brain's like when you were saying earlier, they were saying maybe I'm psychic, maybe I'm not. The brain's powerful enough when you focus it. The potentials are it's unknown to us. The potential of your brain. Now, from what I'm understanding lately, what these entities are, they're pure energy, right? And your brain's a receptor. And if there's one that's strong enough and skilled enough, perhaps, yeah, it could absolutely take control. Bear in mind, your brain is a computer that's controlled by energy, and spirits, from what I'm learning thus far, are pure energy. So yeah, I make room for that. I mean, there are a lot of parallels between possession, abduction, and several other abnormalities. But again, I always say this, the brain is really a computer, and we don't use it to its full potential. So we have no clue what it can or cannot do.
Well, I like how you said. See, I like how you said the more you learn, the more you have to make space for, and that makes a lot of sense, because that, as we do our research, the more we learn, the more like you said, we really need to make space for that. There is so much more in these little pieces that come. It just makes this picture just get bigger and bigger of what else we can learn about it.
Right. You can't approach anything with filters on. Any subject you go, whether it's paranormal, ufology, or math, or social studies, if you walk in there with blindfolds on, you're going to miss something. You have to see the full picture before casting any kind of thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have one really good team member that reminds me all the time. It doesn't matter how many years you've been doing this. When you lull yourself into this usually happens. This is the rules. Yes, there's a few exceptions. And then something extremely abnormal to what you're used to happens. For a moment, you can't, adjust and understand, why is it happening in this direction? It's never done that before, and you have to take those limitations off and continue to explore what's going on around you.
Right. It's consider what the title is. It's parallel to the normal. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, that same thing, you could be said the same way if you live in Europe and then you move to the United States. It's parallel to your normal. Doesn't mean it's weird. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist or it's strange. It just means right now science can't explain it. I promise you, in the upcoming future, I think science is going to make some leaps and bounds with the paranormal. It's the question of our mortality that causes us to go down this road. And then,
right.
And then curiosity. For me, I'm a curious person, right? I'm a weirdo too. I'm one of those kids who used to run at the shadows. So Dyann, for you.
Yeah, you're talking at the group here that runs to the shadows, Everybody else is going the other way and we're going straight in. Yeah, and it's interesting, in my experience, I don't think I had a really big wow moment at the beginning. I think I had some experiences that were unexplainable enough once I really started seriously looking for things that were happening. So, it was, an audible, an AVP versus an EVP. It was, I smell something that isn't here. So there was a lot of these little things that piled on top of each other until, of course, we get to the point where, you get the Holy Grail where you actually see, a figure that's not there. And I've been lucky enough to have that experience twice. And it's rare, and when it happens, it's something that is visually seared into your brain. Katie was with me during one of the instances where it happened when we were back in Gettysburg, where we saw it, together, we're both pointing. Do you see that? Yeah, I see that. And the other instance happened at Waverly Hills in Kentucky, where saw a full body apparition up on the third floor. But it's, it's those things. And like Karen commented, it's the little things, they don't happen very often, that keep you going. And, in the act of researching the paranormal, you have to be extremely patient. We frequently talk about, what's going on in media, and that's not reality, what goes on in media. We don't go to an investigation and come back with, gobs of evidence. If that was happening, I would question our integrity on that. It's when it does happen and it's good. That's when it gets exciting, and that's just enough, to keep you going for the next 3, 6, 12 months that it takes before you get that next piece of credible, credible evidence of something that's unexplainable. Katie laughs because we'll be at an investigation with each other, and things will be happening, and she's looking at it from the lens of a psychic, and I'm doing this investigation, and she looks at me and she starts laughing because she knows either I'm counting something, I'm trying to go, how can I explain what's happening? And if I can just go through and not be able to explain it, that's when I'm getting excited too. I don't want to have to explain everything. And so it's super exciting when we get to that point where we get that piece of evidence, that audible, that EVP, something being moved that we can't explain. If it's the full body apparition, something, the scent that we can't explain, whether it's perfume or cigar smoke, that's not there. But it's those little things.
Karen and I are super passionate, so we get excited easily. And if something is not normal, we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That doesn't mean it's haunted yet, but we're leaning that way real fast. We really want it to be. We're looking. And Dyann is over here grounding us with the common sense of, well, now let's look for natural causes. There's a possibility. Is there a window open? Is there a breeze coming in? Did the fan just turn on? And we're like, yeah, you're right. Her favorite saying is, we cannot confirm or deny. And so when Dyann reaches that point, I know that she's experiencing the paranormal because she's very good at finding natural causes about things. So if she's not finding any natural causes, whoa, something's going on.
That's a good thing. You have good diversity, right? You need someone grounded in reality. You need someone who has, you need a Katie, someone who's got that sense to them. And then, you got Karen, where she looks things from both perspectives. That's a healthy thing to have, right? Speaking on the smells and the feelings, I do a lot of research. I documentaries, I read it all, right? You're talking about entities that use energy. They manipulate energy. And so I thought to myself, what is this sulfa thing, right, that people smell often? And, what are these other fragrances? So imagine if you have something manipulating the space around you, depending on how strong its energy is, you don't know what it's doing chemically to the air around you, right? I've spoken to people about this too. When entities want to touch you, whether it be a pleasant one or a non-pleasant one, it has to manipulate energy, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience for either one, period. They can't hug you, they're going to use energy to manipulate something. It's going to come out in a way that, again, it's not going to be pleasing to us. But that being said, the mystery behind the paranormal for me is really simple. And I'd spoken to Roberta Grimes and some other afterlife experts. I mean, I've had the luxury of speaking to people that, they're the lead of what they do. And the spirits here, so far in my opinion anyway, is that they're kind of like they either elected to stay here and or something happened instantly and they're not prepared, right? They couldn't cross over. Because imagine if you get shot in the head from behind, it's like that. You have no idea what just happened. So you're in a state of confusion, like I'm lost. And or there's me. I'm very nostalgic. I don't want to go anywhere. I feel bad for my family. So, it's I make room for a lot in that. Go ahead. I'll let you guys have the floor. I'm gonna hear you out some more because I could go forever. Trust me.
There was a hotel that we did where the hotel owner came through on 2 different devices and answered the questions and said that basically no one could run the hotel as good as he could, and he was not going anywhere. There was a restaurant down in, we're based in Southern California, so we, all of our work is from pretty much the ocean out to Palm Springs, La Quinta area, all of Southern California. And we spent quite a few times at a restaurant down in Orange County that used to be a doctor's office in the 20s. And he did illegal abortions there then. It's now a luxury restaurant. But they let us come down there many times and investigate. And there was a gentleman there that refused to move on because he'd been in a car wreck with his children. He and his children had passed, and he felt so guilty he was not going to cross until he found his children. And we felt the children had already crossed over. So, quit looking here. You can cross over and go there and stuff. So, yeah, they come with their different reasons, and all their reasons make sense. They're very human emotions that they're sharing with us.
Yeah, of course. I have my own theories on, life in general and where you go. I mean, again, since I started doing the investigation I've been doing, I kind of think I think Earth is a proving ground. This is definitely a proving, because again, not to over reference it, but when you look at a cosmic web, how everything's connected, the way our brain, it seems like everything in the known universe has like a similar construct. So I think when you pass here, you could either go to the next plane, or you might have been a real asshole and you got to get recycled. You know what I mean? You got to start over. Sorry, you can't go to the next level. You're a jerk, period. Right. And or you're such a great person. You did such amazing things for humanity. We need to recycle you. You're needed here. And then there's the select other few that they're just right there. It's like that limbo state, because like I said earlier, something instant happened and they're stuck in a state of confusion here, and or they elected. I mean, it's full energy, and I think our consciousness and our soul are one and the same, and very aware what's going on. You know?
Yeah, the topic of energy is it's really fascinating because we all know that, you know, energy never ends. You know, it's going to be transferred from one place to another, and if we are no longer containing that energy, where is it going? It has to go somewhere.
Right.
Which, you know, it makes sense that, you know, because that's proven, you know, so where is our energy? Where is the electrical energy within us, within our brain? Now that, you know, we've got a better understanding of that. There was a really interesting theory that I thought about, and it had to do with energy. And, you know, we talk about frequently going to theaters, and why are theaters so haunted? You know, we've all got our, you know, our local, you know, theaters with the ghost stories behind them. We have a few that we frequently investigate. You know, we usually go every year or two, make our rounds to them, and we get good results there. Why is that? You know, and in this particular theory, they talk about the audience. And when you've got you know, shows night after night after night that create so much emotion, you know, whether it's happiness or it's sadness or it's anger. So there's all this energy there, which in turn kind of amps up what we can go in there with our equipment and our psychic mediums and start picking up on this. It's energy.
You're right. Yeah. And I had a conversation with a parapsychologist, and we discussed theaters and amusement parks. And
high energy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why.
High emotion.
It's these are places of pleasure. So as it is here, as it is there. You know, as we are here, as we are there. And back to my recycling idea. You know, energy has information attached to it. I mean, if you look at fiber optics, you're using energy to transport crazy information, at some speed that's instant. And so when we pass along, if we're recycling, and I say this because there's children that are recalling things from events from the 40s that they shouldn't know. Yeah. And so that energy has some information attached to it. And and essentially, if you're recycled, but there could be glitches in the system and they can remember something. A smell could bring a memory that they would otherwise never have before. So when it comes to the afterlife, we have to make room for the idea that as we are here, as we are there, and if they're between worlds, and why you're getting so many good hits at theaters, I mean, that's where I would go. If I'm passed along and I'm still here and no one's talking to me and I can watch a movie free all day, all night, that's where I'm going to be. If I can walk around Disney all day, all night, that's what I'm going to do. You know,
I'm not going to be hanging out in that graveyard somewhere that everybody thinks that you need to go investigate. I'm not going to go to where I'm buried. I'm going to go where I feel good.
Right. Right.
You know.
Go ahead, Dyann. I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to know if I can comment on that when you're done. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go for it, Karen.
Okay, so we spoke to a demonologist this weekend, and he brought it to the attention, and something that we had talked about before, the graveyards, all that, like why. He had mentioned that, you don't do an as we all know, I've learned this from Dyann and Katie, when you're ill or you don't feel well, when you're not up to par, you don't go on an investigation. You don't want to be vulnerable. Okay, we know that, and I know that from the two of you ladies. So when you're not well, when you're emotional, when you just are not doing your best, you don't investigate because you're weak. And when people go to the cemetery to see loved ones, they have a lot of emotion, and they're not as strong as they are, and weak and vulnerable. And this demonologist had said, and that's where a lot of the demons hang out, not spirits, demons. And he was, just saying that's when you're vulnerable. And so that's where they hang, and he also had said, hang where the it's always best to go where there's emotions, happy emotions and feeling good emotions and stuff. He says, that's where, if you're stuck or something, that's where the spirits would like to be. It's the demons that he had said that want to attach or whatnot when you're not your best and when you're vulnerable, and that's the place. So that being said, I don't think I'll ever go to a cemetery.
Well, they're opportunists.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And to that point, when you're in a less than strong mental place mentally, you don't go do surgery. All right. You don't go scuba diving. You certainly don't make world decisions as a world leader when you're under that kind of distress, right? You have to be healthy. You have to be 1,000% in some of these cases. Now you're talking about afterlife spirits and even demons. Yeah, you better be on par, because of vulnerabilities, not just for the opportunists, but there's lonely souls out there, and they elected to stay behind, and they're going to attach themselves to someone, and if they find someone in a weakened state, who better to rebound, right? And let's say this is, for me, I've never witnessed a ghost. I'm going to do a documentary eventually. I'm going to get out there and look. But what if you get that one guy who's like me, and he finds someone he could attach to, and he's he's impolite. He sings the same song all day. He's a pain in the ass to say. That, there's flip sides to everything. I say this to people all the time. It's not always the evil ones that might annoy you. It just might be the annoying ones that'll really annoy you, And so real quick, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, on adjacent to this topic, it reminds me of the big thing right now is people buying haunted dolls for a novelty item.
Yeah, wow.
One of our team members just purchased one. I'm not real happy about that. Being that I was jumped 3 times, I don't go anywhere near anything that's haunting an object because something jumped into it. A haunted doll, if it's truly haunted, something has jumped in there. Okay. If it's jumped in, it can jump out. So I'm using a little logic here about how close I'd get to the haunted doll. And I've been doing readings lately in a couple of Facebook groups where people have been complaining about the haunted doll they purchased. It was supposedly super sweet and got there and something's not right anymore. And I tell them, get rid of the doll. I may be wrong, but it's a good place to start. And
I think you're right. Listen, I don't care what spirit is. You took their doll. They're not going to be pleased. Here's the other, and I talked to some of the paranormal investigators, these houses that are haunted. These are spirit. This is energy that is trying to figure out why you're in their house. Why are you here? Why are you touching my stuff? And if children pass as well, and children and look at them in real life. They have tantrums. Now you take their doll. That energy could turn sour real fast. And then what are you going to do? Discipline it? It's a foolish idea to take to possession of something that belonged to something. When I hear about the dolls, and by the way, I don't like dolls to start. They creep me out from the beginning. We'll leave it at that. But you take their doll, and then you have this energy that goes from like a neutral energy to an absolute hot and angry energy. Not only do you take their doll, but you brought it somewhere. It's not their home. They're going to be disgruntled. So I don't know what people expect when you're buying these dolls because you want to have an interaction. I don't know. You're playing with fire there. You're taking possession of someone's stuff. And as you see what happens in the humans, well, imagine that in just pure energy.
I think because of the media and the TV shows, when we started, it was 15 years ago, and there were 2 shows on TV. There were The Plumbers. 3. The Plumbers, the English show where the lady screams, which I loved that show. And then Penn State, Ryan Buell was with a bunch of college kids. And that was it. There was 3 shows on TV. That was it. There was our group in the Inland Empire. There was not another group anywhere near us. The closest one was out in LA. So there was like 3 groups in Southern California. That was it. And 15 years ago, I had to be very cautious. My work couldn't find out I was involved with it. I had to stay down, lay low. Now, if we go in and we cannot confirm something paranormal is happening in a home, they get upset with you. Mm-hmm. It's like they have not been able to join that club, haunted club, and therefore you don't know what you're doing because you couldn't tell them a definitive yes. which is really good news. If I say, I'm not getting anything haunted, it's leaning more towards natural causes. Why don't we try the following things? It's good news for them, but they don't take it that way. They're now in modern day, 2021 versus 2006. People are getting upset with you if you don't say, oh, yes, you're haunted, and you can tell all your friends,
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, the mindset is changing out there. And it's media driven. It really is.
It is. It's a shame. That's so many fires are set on social media. It's unbelievable. I mean, you can say the most positive message and it'll turn into a negative thing in a matter of a minute, depending on who listens anyhow. I'm going to give something to you guys, something I've been reading, something I've been researching, and a little bit of theory. Planet Earth is, give or take, 4 billion years old, right? Who knows what walked around here a billion or 2 years ago? A billion, right? Mm-hmm. If mankind disappeared tomorrow, in the next 2 million years, there'd be no trace of us, like near nothing. So now you rewind 2 billion years. Who knows what energy is walking around from then? We have no clue. Could be large humanoid beings. I firmly believe that all these demon sightings and these demon-esque things going on, I think this is old energy. That, to them, this is, who are these humans? What do they think they're doing? And you're tapping into their planes. And I've noticed since we have increased our technology with using, say, 4G, 5G, and you're actually borderline crossing over a little bit, right? It's got to interfere. I say that because we're harnessing the power of the sun in an explosive, in a nuclear bomb. And I talked to a couple of people about this. But that's the power of the sun. You're defying physics when that thing explodes. So who's to say you didn't just wipe out a whole... You blow it up in a desert, barren here. But how do you know in another parallel universe you didn't just wipe out a whole community? So when it comes to the afterlife, the biggest part of the mystery is, yes, our energy transfers, but so does the energy of others. And then again, like I said, 2 billion years ago, 3 billion years ago, who knows what was walking around? We have no clue. So, to that, and another personal belief of mine, if you look at the Sphinx, I don't think the head of that is natural. I think mankind some thousands of years ago redid that to see the way they fit. So I don't know. For you ladies, what you're discovering out there, do you ever get the kind of like idea that maybe these aren't all former human?
Oh. Paranormal is an umbrella over Bigfoot and aliens, and you have to pick and choose how much time you have to throw at an area. There are team members that have a broader interest. For me, myself, I would have no time I believe Nessie's out there, I'm hoping. But other than that, I'm not sure. I have some real quick ideas about other topics and stuff. A lot of what you said can play into if someone has a strong religious background, and that would filter their answer about
right.
demons, demonology, what have you, old energy and stuff like that. I have come up against things that I have said were never living. That's just a phrase I use. I'm always hoping I'm wrong, but that's my description for doesn't feel like it was human.
Right.
I can't prove it, and I don't want to prove it, but it makes me more cautious than I was a minute ago. And I'm also trying to warn any team member nearby. This is what Katie's thinking right now. I could be wrong, but so I have come up against some things that were darker energy. If you can sense that you're getting, when you feel more creeped out than otherwise, you would ask yourself, why is the hair on the back of my neck standing up? More so now than whatever you would assess. I've come up against things that don't feel human, but I don't chase after them and pursue them. I'm not trained in that area. And because of my past jumping, I don't want to get any closer. That's my view.
Don't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I don't blame you. Now I'm thinking it that way because you got to, especially with the training. Because you know, when I say non-human, I mean it could have been like us. You know, this planet's recycled a lot. The more I read Graham Hancock studies, there's no way that we got started a few thousand years ago. That's not possible. You know, let's think about like ancient Egypt, and some of their more negative. And you know how Egypt operates. There was basically a dictator, and you served the dictator, and if you didn't, you would get punished to death. A lot of negative spirits running around in that realm. I say this to a lot of paranormal people too, is when it comes to dark energy, here's some food for thought. There's serial killers here on Earth. Mm-hmm. So when you're out investigating the paranormal, the most dangerous thing that's typically around you is a human. But they pass over too. Their energy pass over too. And I'm pretty certain that they're not going to the glorious light, you know? And if they neglect that to move forward or they stay behind, you know, you could walk into a room tomorrow with vicious people and there'd be a tension like anger and you'd never met them before, but you'll feel that. You'll sense that anger. Same could be said for the spirit world. So the darker energies, I make room for that. There's a lot of people too that pass over and
well, yeah, we've investigated multiple prisons and penitentiaries, and those are very different to investigate than the local hotel or antique store. And you can feel it when you go in. You're on guard, you're listening. Now those folks. While they may be a darker energy, I don't fit those into the same category as the non-human. But yeah, they are darker. The people that are grumpy and not nice people in life are grumpy and not nice people in death. But if we talk a little bit more about what we don't recognize as human. And, and there's one instance that I can remember with Katie, and it's not the other one. So I'm not talking about that one. This is one in Ontario. And it's extremely interesting because we did an investigation at this site. And Katie kept saying, I see something, and it looks like, she described it looking like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Okay, that, while it's got, appendages, arms and legs, it doesn't really look human. And that's what she was visualizing. I tried to interact. She said it was responding to me, but I didn't get anything on my end. The interesting thing is I have another friend who's also a paranormal investigator with some sensitive abilities, was not on this investigation with us. No idea. She basically saw the same thing at this location. It's Kitty. So she, so it really confirmed to me that, yeah, there is something there. Without my psychic abilities, I couldn't see it. I did see a ball of energy light there move from one side of the room through a wall, half wall, to the other side of the room. Whether or not that was associated with this non-human entity, who knows? And when we start talking about things like the parallel universes, and who knows, do we know, is that what we're seeing? When we start seeing, is that person really alive, in another time frame, and we're just kind of colliding as we go around the corner. Who knows? Mm-hmm.
We were at Gettysburg at the Sachs Bridge, which is multi-famous, and had a really prominent psychic with us. He's very good, and I think he's known a little bit across the nation. Just happened to come into town when he came into town. And he was demanding that the spirits get up and report to him the Confederate soldiers and stuff. And we're looking and looking and looking. And out of the mist and the shadows and the fog started shifting. And it became Confederate soldiers with the hat and everything get up from behind the logs and coming forward towards him like they're going to report to him. And it was like, what the heck? But it's where you are and what you're looking for and calling to and attracting and hoping for that you're going to interact with that. Our group goes into private homes and or businesses where someone is frightened because they've moved in and they were just told that someone killed themselves in this home before they bought it. And they would like to know, is there a spirit left over here? We go in or we go to another place where we don't know what might be causing a haunting, and we kind of try to figure out who it is. Rarely, if ever, have we gone into a home and it's been someone that wasn't living, not human, demonic, evil, John Wilkes Booth, some famous killer has shown up in Southern California, and here we are face to face with a serial killer that spirit of, or anything like that. Occasionally we've gone to a place where, like Dyann said, they're grumpy, they're mean, they seem really nasty, but it turns out it's grandpa, he was a mean person living, and now he's shown up to try and cause issues, So again, when you're, based on what you were saying to us, it's where you are that you would increase or decrease your chance of running into something not so nice. If we were investigating the pyramids, we would have a much different response than if we were investigating a house in Southern California of who would probably be there.
Right. So when you get to that point where you go to someone's home and clearly it's an energy there, maybe he lived there before. What measures, here's the part where, for me, if I get out there to investigate anyhow, what do you do about removing them? Like, how do you get them to just move on? Or some cases they don't?
There are a lot of groups that pride themselves in putting on their website, will come out, and it shouldn't be for a fee at all. It should be for free, because we always say it's an unrecognized science and they have no business charging money. But
I respect that.
If you're at a home and it's taken weeks and months for a spirit to show itself and for a family to finally get the courage to contact you and for you to make arrangements to get out there, a spirit really cannot be removed in an hour. They can get stubborn and they can try and say, no, I'm not going to go. Therefore, unless we move into the home, we leave the client with natural, holistic ways and tools to get rid of the spirits in a very gentle. And we got this from a demonologist that we were taking classes with. And he said his worst cases, he uses the following, this, and this, and this. So it becomes the responsibility, in essence, for the client to put time and energy into smudging and putting out certain things that repel spirits very gently, and try to get them out of the home. 99% of the time it works. We do have an occasional client that says it's not working, so.
I had a guy tell me that he would play his music loud all day long, and that worked. I mean, I guess. So, Karen and Katie, you guys had spoken to a demonologist. What are demons? Because that's my next. I'm going to start, researching more of those aside of what I already have my own belief on. But what do they think a demon is?
Go for it, Karen.
I was just going to say, go ahead. You start. I'll add in what I just learned. You start.
Okay. What I learned was there's a hierarchy that people rarely actually interact with the actual demons, that instead they have minions that do their dirty work. So you have these, they're called lower level energies, that their goal is to cause problems for mankind. And that could be cause problems for this person, this family, this location. Jason Gowan gave a really great speech when we were back in Gettysburg one time. He used to be on one of those shows where they had a big long van. Can't remember what it's called, Ghost something, a few years back. But he learned that lower level energies are looking for people that are compromised mentally, emotionally, physically. So you have a chronic disease, you have anxiety, depression, you have addiction, you are compromised, you are much more susceptible to lower level energies whispering in your ear and showing up and making trouble for you. So that's what I learned. What'd you learn, Karen?
Okay, you know what? What's the other word? And we heard about it from the gentleman in Rialto also. And then they talked about imps this weekend. Are you familiar with that word?
Yeah, I would call that lower level.
Yeah, and that's what they are. So he was, and there's another word he used too. It was imps, and then the little one, I can't think of the word he said, and they're just they are the lower level, and they are just evil. They're just evil, and they just
I've heard him described
spirits.
I've heard him described as parasites more often than none.
Yeah. It depends. There's like three different kinds and stuff, but their whole agenda is just to make trouble in any way that they can. And like that, so TV will say there's a demon, especially Mr. Bagans and his show will always have some sort of a demon showing up and stuff. And there are a lot of people across the world, but we're familiar with the United States, we have run into and met and talked with and investigated with and gone to the conferences and collaborated with. And their whole concept is they're not experts, but they're very experienced. We don't like that word expert.
Yeah, it's hard to be an expert of something you don't have in a lab, right?
Mm-hmm. You could be unrecognized science.
Right. You could say,
you can't be a professional. How can you be a professional of something that's,
right.
But they're experienced. We're experienced. There are many, many people that have a lot of experiences that I would love to share information with, because we're going to learn more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And they all feel that, the word demon is just thrown around way too easily, and that their experiences are like mine with these lower level energies. The one I don't like to talk about too much, I'm not sure that was a good experience, or that they had been living and stuff. That did not feel right. The other ones were definitely formerly living.
See, I'm glad you said that. So to what I was saying earlier, I had spoken to I do a lot of off podcast interviews as well, right? With paranormals and ufology and so on. And some of them keep telling me that when they do come across what they consider to be a non-human energy, they just abandon the site. They don't even try to negotiate it. They don't try to figure it out, because it's even more parallel to the normal than the typical. And in his words, he has, in his time, seen lives come undone, marriages, jobs, family, because,
Right, and it's very hard to distinguish between what is going on with someone's mental health versus what is paranormal. We had a case, a long-running case, where we went back and we could see the progression over time with this particular client. And, it got to the point, it's like, we really think that, it was really hard to distinguish, but our ultimate conclusion was that it really was a mental health issue. that we were dealing in. That needed to be taken care of first before we would even step back in again to do anything for this client. So whether or not it was whatever entities were causing the mental health, then you get into this circle, but the mental health really has to be taken care of first. And it's always something that you have to be aware of when you're working with a client, especially with a client that has more than, we can call it, the vanilla type of experiences.
Right.
Because we get a lot of the vanilla type of experiences. I'm hearing knockings, or I'm hearing, when they start getting into they're leaving me, messages, or they're right behind me right now, and you're like, let's
They
make
told me
sure
that nobody loves me, but they do. It's like, oh dear.
yeah. So we deal with that too. We do some consulting, a little bit, not much, but we do some consulting with a paranormal exorcist group, where they'll refer local cases to us just for screening purposes,
Right.
and that's where we stop.
I mean, you have to vet, obviously, right? Because if you think what a mental illness is, it's a chemical reaction, and I guess it's best to find out if they had it, prior to their, the entity coming around, because, that's one of the things when I watch these videos on YouTube and I see these people and they're looking for spirits. The first thing I look for is chemical reactions, like when you have an adrenaline dump. I don't care how I'm a pretty tough dude in life. I'm pretty fearless. But if I see something supernatural, I'm going to have a chemical reaction. I'm going to shake a little bit. My breathing's going to change. The way I act and my tones, because I'm having a chemical reaction to something that's supernatural. And whether it's a negative reaction or a brave one, you're going to dump adrenaline. Now, for people that interact with these entities that perhaps don't want to, they could have a chemical reaction that could cause permanent damage, like mental illness. So,
yeah, we saw him progressively go from vanilla, as Dyann said, your standard concerns, and we went out there 4 times, and and that was over 2 months, 3 months, and by the 4th visit, he had mentally left the building. We don't know, was that him naturally progressing, or spirits causing this progression, but it's out of our hands. At some point,
Right.
We can't be your hero anymore. We're not trained in
well, yeah, your job's to identify the issue, right? And give it I guess, if I'm not mistaken, but identify it and give it a level of problem, right? It's a level 1. It's just some guy who didn't want to part from his home, or it's a level 10. It's out of its friggin' mind and it's out to do damage, right? At said point, you can't do anything.
Get out tonight.
Yeah, because I hear a lot of people reference we'll do a prayer group. I'm like, some of these things, they're pure evil. They're not going to recognize your prayer. And if they're ancient, if it's ancient energy, you're talking about energy that's been around before religion, so it's really hard to gauge that. And no one should expect anyone to just deal with a problem. I mean, there's some people out there. Like I had David Olson. He's a cop in Chicago. The guy he basically has the Echo 2 from Ghostbusters, right? It's a reformed ambulance, and he's got the trailer. Some of those guys are equipped to also identify, but as far as dealing with it, I don't know.
Right. There's a level of spirit interaction that is real basic and real easy to handle. We can go in, we can identify, we can share, we can give evidence. It's solid evidence compared to wish it was, or might be, or could be, or should be. We don't turn in EVPs that are a bunch of whisper mumbles. We want it to be clearly heard. Everyone's agreeing what the voice is saying or whatever. Equipment is going off, and we are triple checking that nothing natural is setting it off. And Everything's in context with everything else. The spirit box, if it's talking at all, everything is not from a spirit. You have to know how your equipment can fail before you turn it on,
I agree.
And when that's all done, it's very easy to give a set of remedies that have been proven to help other homes through experience, trial and error, the demonologist classes that we took, all of his remedies and what have you. I got a hold of him one time and I said, surely you have something stronger than essential lavender oil. And he said, yeah, that sounds like run to Walmart,
Right, yeah.
And he said, I used that on some of my worst cases. Really? Now, people that are dealing with New Age and aromatherapy swear by essential lavender oil, and they can explain to me A to Z, the calming, properties of it, and maybe the chemical breakdown of it or whatever. I don't care because it just works. And so it's amazing to me how many homes have put that in a diffuser and things have calmed down quickly.
Listen, I had a guy my off podcast interviews are some of my favorite. This guy told me that he was being harassed for a few years, and he's tried psychics, he's tried the priests, he's tried it all. At the end of the day, mothballs worked.
That's my list.
And
You have to look at really look at the environment, and sometimes it's like little clues. People see things on TV or in movies and they think that's the way to fix it, like putting salt across the windows and the doors, and we're like, wait a minute, let's get that salt out of there, because while salt has those properties that can really help in those types of situations, what you've done is you've created a cage. And there's no way that spirit can now get out. Put that salt in a bowl in the center of the room.
Right.
And open the windows and the doors. Don't trap it in.
Mm-hmm.
We had another case that we went to, and we got in there and we started looking. And I don't know if you've heard of, what are they called, Katie? Was it Mcvamwell Mirrors?
Bagua.
Yeah, they're octagon-shaped mirrors, and they're used in some Southeast Asia beliefs, and you're supposed to put them on the outside of your home to repel evil spirits. Well, and we walked in there, and I started looking around, and I saw one up on the wall, and I thought, I got a really funny feeling about it. I said, there's something off here. And we realized, hey, you know what? You've put something in your house again that has trapped them inside of your house. Get that off the wall. Those go on the outside, to repel. Because if that is what your belief system is, that's what's going to work for you if you use it right.
Right.
I mean, you're probably right, because you got to think of this. You're dealing with full energy. I imagine if you use your full energy to push them away, that should count, right? I personally think everybody on Earth, every human, has psychic powers. The reason that they don't know about it is because they don't channel that side of their brain. There's a guy that got in a car accident, injured his head significantly, and he plays the piano at a master's level. He unlocked something he didn't even know was there. So I think, if you want to, like you said, if your belief system is strong enough and you put your energy behind it, I think it could work for you. Most certainly.
And you train and develop it. If you train, you have to listen to yourself and train and develop it. I think we all have those abilities as well. You just have to listen and, like I said, train, develop it. And the more you do it and meditate and think about these things, and the more you try to grow it, the more it develops.
Sure. I mean, think about even what you just said, meditation. I hear people say, well, I can't meditate. I can't rest. Well, sure, but you're really good at your job. Yeah. You're focused. Yeah. Well, what do you think pure focus is? It's meditation. It's just finely tuned. It's called the X factor for people that are good at things. Peaceful meditation is different. Because because with me, I'm an active mind. So for me to peacefully meditate, I don't know, it requires drugs or something. I'm not sure. But
it's a nap. It turns into a nap with me, you know.
I'm constantly thinking, so it's impossible for just to late. If I try to later and go blank, I think that's more dangerous to me thinking about things. So, but yeah, as far as the spirit world, before we close, let's get into the discussion. We'll start with Karen. Your more interesting outcome, meaning something that you saw, and it not only did it confirm to you something's real, but it was like benign. We'll call it benign.
It started with the little things, the little EVPs that grew. I got those. I thought I saw a couple shadow figures several times. And then we went to a casino in Las Vegas at a convention, and we were sitting in the room in this casino, and we were on the floor, and above us was a mantle, 7 feet up, maybe. I don't know, 7 feet, probably 6 feet up. And there was a full bottle of water on that mantle. And we were all sitting Indian style on the floor. There was a bunch of us, and we were sitting there and asking questions. And we had heard a lot. There was a lot of activity at this particular convention years ago. And we were alone in this space, and there wasn't others adjacent to us or whatnot. So we were there and we were asking questions, and the feeling in the room, we really felt like something was with us. And we asked the question that if you are here with us, can you move this bottle of water? And not long after the question was asked, the bottle moved, not moved. It flew, like somebody had just gone and with their hand and just swiped it off. And it hit the floor. And I don't remember the girl that was sitting there, but we just all looked at each other like, holy shit, what was that? And so that for me, I mean, when that hit me, that was my aha moment. You know, I thought I seen shadow figures, and I thought I got some really clear EVPs, and, you know, but this for me was the nail in the coffin. This for me was where I said, like, holy crap. And it was enough to keep me coming back and think, okay, well, now I need to get another piece of equipment, and now I need to do a little bit more research, and now I need to do a little bit more. And I know you both know what I'm talking about. And that was for me. What?
It hit Ben Hansen in the head. I was there.
Yeah, I know. And Dyann was there too. And you know who I also I talked to another one of our teammates this weekend that was there too. And she actually said, I was at this place once. And I'm like, oh my God. And that to me was it. The little stuff adds up and you're like, oh my God, that was really cool. I'm going to keep going. But this for me was the one when it flew like that. Not like it just boop. It flew. And that I knew right then and there, okay, there's more to this, and I needed to get, develop my little research and, get more plugged in and buy another piece of equipment and, really, really dig into this. And that for me was it. That was my aha moment.
I'm a pretty brave guy. If I saw that bottle get swiped like that, I would have came out of my skin.
You know what? I think so many of us did, because we were just like, and there was no way we looked, we went and looked this way and everybody looked around, and could there have been this? Was there somebody in the other room? But even if there was somebody in the other room, which there wasn't, there was no way that the position of where that bottle, and it was a full water bottle, so heavy,
right?
That how it went, there was just
no,
there was just no other explanation.
And speaking of the shadow things, when I was a kid, right? Again, I want to remind you guys, I've never witnessed anything, but I'm gonna. I say that positively because I'm going to go do a documentary. That's why I'm talking to you and all these other paranormals and ufology. I'm going to have a network, and I'm going to go to the spot. I'm going to get it. So, but back to when I was a kid, where we used to sneak out of our house at night to go play Manhunt. Mom, if you listen to this, I'm sorry. We used to sneak out of the house at night to go play Manhunt. And there's a lake, and it was like moonlit. And my friend's like, oh, you see the shadow things? So, of course, I never get to see anything. So what I do, I start running for it. And I get all the way around this lake into the wooded area, and I don't see anything at all. And it dawned on me that I live in Florida. I just ran into the woods with alligators, snakes, and whatever else to find some shadows, right? So the fascination's there, and it's of me to want to know about it. Dyann, your aha moment.
Oh gosh, it's kind of like Karen, where there's a lot of them that build up. But one that came into mind, and it was more of a subtle aha moment. we had, as a team, we had just finished a class with the local demonologist, providing us with a lot of different information. And we were investigating a bookstore. And we were in a back alley where it's known that there's a grumpy spirit back there. And we had gone back there, and I think there were 4 of us on this investigation. And I was talking to another team member about some of the things that we had learned from the demonologist, because this team member hadn't been there. And I can't remember exactly what I was saying, but it had to do with different types of spirits. The thought that if it's a friendly spirit, like one that's a family member, you really can't make them leave, because they're there looking. It's kind of like your spirit angel looking over you and protecting you. But, there's other types of spirits out there. We were, this conversation, and I got an EVP right at that moment that said, there are 2 kinds of bad. So it really was an intelligent response to the conversation that we were having from a male entity. It was a male voice, not one of the males that was with us, nowhere near that same voice, coming in as a known grumpy spirit. It was like, what, if they're communicating with us, we got to learn more.
Yeah, especially if it's intelligent, that should really bother you, because it's doing that. It's calculated. And if it's speaking in a very calm, calculated manner, like you would imagine, if you're a spirit and you haven't spoken to anyone forever, you'd be excited. Oh my God, someone's talking to me. And but when you're calculated and relaxed, it's got an agenda. It's not exactly hanging out so you could talk about the weather. Katie, what's your aha moment?
There's a ton of those little things like they're talking about. I have so many. I just have to share the mind blown moment. Went to the Queen Mary for the 100th time. We were an hour away from the Queen Mary in the Pacific Ocean area. And so that's a big hot spot to go to. And since we're only an hour away, we went down there way too many times and got very familiar with the different spirits. Supposedly near the pool is a little girl named Jackie, allegedly. Many people have sworn they've heard her, seen her, whatever. And we were with a couple other friends of us that have their own paranormal group who regularly talk with Jackie. And I've heard about it, but I stood at the pool and he called to her, and that little girl talked to us for 30 minutes at the poolside. That little ghost girl. And it was like mind blown. I have heard about this. And I kept looking at everybody. My jaw is on the ground. I kept looking at everybody like, are you hearing this? Are you hearing this? I've got it recorded. I saved that thing. That's like my piece of gold. I can never get rid of that recording. But there she is responding. And it sounds, I guess the word would be ethereal, otherworldly. It like comes from somewhere else and kind of comes over to our side and then sort of fades back to some fourth dimension. And you can hear the voice coming into our area and then fading out. And I just looked at everybody like, holy crap. We hear about this and we're actually standing here and hearing a little girl talk to us. That makes no sense whatsoever. Because you suspect that what you've been going through for years and years has been real. You have no way to explain it, but you're always afraid that someone can show up and say, oh, that's when this or that happens, and explain it away. But this one, nobody can explain this one away. So that's my favorite.
And a little girl, you got to imagine, as we are here, as we are there, you're an inviting person. I said this to a few other paranormals when a little girl talks to them, and it's always a little girl talking to someone. They feels inviting. Never have I heard a guy that looks like me, tattooed and muscled up. Never heard a little girl talk to that guy. So, ladies, before we go, we're going to, in fact, hang out post-podcast. I'm going to discuss something with you guys. I have an idea. You know what I mean? So before we go, is there anything else you guys want to add or anything you want to put out there?
Karen, give them our email in case they want to contact us. What's our email?
Team CALPARA at gmail.com. TEAMCALPARA, Team CALPARA at gmail.com.
Excellent.
And our website, calpara.org. If they want to flip around and see.
Yeah, I'll put all that in the description as well so they can navigate to it.
Okay.
You guys hang on. We're going to have a post-podcast. Everyone else listening, my bad. I got to talk to them. Have a good night.